Chapter 1. Why the need for God realization? It is not the purpose of this chapter to deal with the question of whether or not there is a God. The entire book is predicated on the belief that not only is there a God, but also that he can be realized in our very lifetime. Each seeker who studies mystic literature has already tentatively acknowledged the existence of a superior power. For if he had not, he would hardly be reading a book such as this. Besides, if a superior power does indeed exist, then it is for him to bring us into his presence, as we are far too limited to attain his realization unaided. The assumption is made, rather, that the seeker after truth who reads these pages is looking for a proven method of attaining God realization, as he is already feeling the pangs of separation from the Father, and is seeking the royal road back to his true home in higher regions. He is examining different philosophies carefully to determine which one answers his inner needs. It is logical, therefore, to ask how the science of Sant Mat, the teachings of the saints, stands on some important questions. A primary question deals with the necessity for God realization. Maharaj Charan Singh says, "How can we find peace and contentment in this world? If we cannot heave a sigh of relief when in human form, how can we do so in the form of any other species?" The saints and masters tell us that nobody can ever have lasting peace and contentment in this vale of tears, where there is no pleasure unmixed with pain. And Guru Nanak, the first Sikh Guru, says, "This whole world is afflicted with pain and suffering." What the masters try to tell us is that we are strangers in a foreign land. In this foreign country, we can never be happy, for our roots lie elsewhere. We enter the world through the pain of birth. Everywhere we look, we see strife, discord, bigotry, pain, suffering, and impermanence. Everything grows old, decays, and perishes. There is nothing of lasting value here. As Aldous Huxley once put it, there comes a time when one asks, even of Shakespeare, even of Beethoven, is this all? C.G. Jung, the famous psychoanalyst, said, "Among my patients from many countries, all of them educated persons, there is a considerable number who came to see me not because they were suffering from a neurosis, but because they could find no meaning to life, or were torturing themselves with questions which neither present-day philosophy nor religion could answer. I too had no answer to give." We come to find that there is no joy unmixed with sorrow, and that everything is temporal and wears out. Even if we are blessed with a devoted and loving husband or wife with whom we never have a dispute in our entire lives, one of us will die, leaving the other in misery and mourning. Each day we see sickness and old age, prejudice and injustice all about us. What kind of lasting peace can we find in such a world? Shelley wrote, "Oh, lift me as a wave, a leaf, a cloud. I fall upon the thorns of life. I bleed." Shelley also wrote, "I could lie down like a tired child and weep away the life of care, which I have borne and yet must bear." Many young people rebel against the injustices and cruelty in the world. They deplore violence and strive to be peaceful and loving at all times. They practice nonviolence and turn the other cheek whenever possible. Although this is a virtue to be cultivated, we may ask ourselves where it will get us. Each time an altruistic person comes on stage, he is soon followed by a negative person, bent on destroying all that the other has accomplished. We live in a world where life subsists on life and killing is the order of the day. Each day, we slaughter thousands of animals to fill our bellies and excite our palates. We give little thought to how we might feel if our lives were in constant danger of the butcher's cleaver. We claim to love animals, yet we raise them for slaughter when we can easily subsist on far lower forms of life. Nothing survives in this creation without inflicting hurt on some other form of life. What kind of peace can we find in such a world? It is a strange world indeed which strives to attain some kind of Shangri-La status, while the age-old problems of human misery abound all around us. If we make an inquiry into human nature, we will discover some basic psychological truths which should help us understand why the longing and separation which we feel is but a symptom of the need for God. Let us begin by examining some of the stages through which a soul passes on its way to ultimate enlightenment. We can learn a good deal about ourselves if we analyze ourselves in the light of these stages of development. When the soul enters the human form for the first time, it finds it can taste widely and wildly of the world about it. The intricately designed human form can make much finer contact with the environment than any other species of life. Consequently, it has a tendency to indulge in the sensual pleasures. The world of the five senses is a fascinating one, and there is much to see, do, and experience. The saints tell us that the soul may go through many such incarnations, tasting the sensual pleasures, with little or no thought of anything higher. But as we have seen, the phenomenal world is perishable, as are the sensual pleasures. Eventually, the individual concludes that he will not find happiness through the pursuit of the senses. Slowly and subconsciously, he begins to avoid those kinds of situations which in the past held his attention so firmly. Here we find an important principle in action. By moving away from negative and unrewarding experiences, we are automatically moving towards positive experiences, whether we realize it or not. Generally, the next evolutionary step for us is to move into the sphere of worldly attainments. Wealth, name, fame, and positions of power often replace the world of sensual indulgence. Perhaps I may find true happiness in this way, the mind concludes. Off we go in an attempt to become a notable person in the world. But again, we are doomed to ultimate failure. Look at the people who are applauded by the masses. Today they are public heroes. Tomorrow the object of ridicule and scorn. Today we yell, "Viva, viva!" Tomorrow we dethrone the hero and belittle his accomplishments. Each day we read of a coup here and a coup there. An ex-prime minister or president becomes a virtual nobody when he leaves office. A rich man finds that he is now obsessed with safeguarding his wealth. He is worried that some financial disaster will take away his hard-earned money, or that those around him have ulterior motives in their service to him. He can obtain no peace with what he has and finds that he wants even more. A king wants a greater kingdom, and a rich man wants more and more wealth. The more we get, the more we seem to want. An ancient Indian adage goes well here. We never seem to get enough of what we really do not need. Wealth, power, position, and fame never satisfy us because they are transitory. They are subject to ups and downs, and often all our efforts are required just to maintain the status quo. Further, we are never certain as to why people give us their respect and suspect that it is due only to the favors we can bestow or to the power of our position. We find that our so-called friends soon vanish when a disaster befalls us. In Proverbs 27:24 we read, "For riches are not forever, and doth the crown endure to every generation?" And again, Proverbs 11:28, "He that trusteth in riches shall fall." Having turned from the sensual life and the world of name and fame, the individual generally enters phase 3 of his evolution towards enlightenment, the charitable life. He looks about the world and concludes that a life of selfless service is the answer. Better to think of others than myself. Why not place my talents at the disposal of mankind? Such altruistic service, he hopes, will have an uplifting effect upon his inner being. Consequently, the world has no dearth of noble philanthropists and kind-hearted people who serve the much-needed purpose of keeping our world of duality in balance. If it were not for the efforts of humanitarians like Schweitzer and Gandhi, this world would soon deteriorate into a bloodbath. Part of the divine design, therefore, is to always have a certain number of social reformers and men of charitable disposition improving the lot of humanity. This third phase of development represents a significant improvement over the other two stages. We are less self-centered and more concerned about the other fellow. This comes closer to true love, where we are actively involved in the growth and well-being of the beloved. In selfish love, we think of ourselves first. By this definition, the selfless servant is a noble example of humanity. But here, too, eventual despair sets in, whether it comes in this lifetime or in some future sojourn on this plane of earth. For a slowly dawning consciousness decrees that our efforts are having but little effect on the world. For every good deed we do, another person is performing an evil one. We find we are sweeping the world clean, while others are constantly dumping additional garbage on the newly swept ground. It is a closed circle, and the world seems to move on in the same old way. No one has ever succeeded in changing the nature of the world for more than a short period. The world seems bent on following its prescribed course despite all our efforts. Not only that, but like the man of name and fame, the philanthropist too finds that some partisan group often turns on him, as in the case of Gandhi. When Christ spoke to the general masses regarding good moral conduct and the like, he was accused by the priestly class of trying to set up some kind of kingdom for himself. We turn on those noble souls who try to bring social order into the creation. The conclusion we reach is that the world is designed to operate in duality. Every quality we can name or identify has its opposite attribute. There is good and evil, virtue and sin, honor and dishonor, day and night, riches and poverty, male and female, and birth and death. For every evil person, there seems to be a good one, and for every catastrophe which takes place, good works soon follow. In short, the world seems programmed to operate in a given way, and despite the efforts of the noblest of men, we have not eliminated war, poverty, suffering, or prejudice. No amount of effort on our part will cause this world to change its basic nature. Evidently, the purpose which the Lord has in mind can be best fulfilled by permitting a world of duality to exist. Another basic principle is evident to the soul at this point. This world is designed to be a training ground for the soul, and as such, cannot be changed into something else. Only by our rising above all opposites and dualities can the soul achieve true freedom from bondage. The bubble, soul, has reached the surface and is about to burst free. Now we see the purpose of human existence: liberation from restriction in any form. This world is a restriction. So are the body and the mind. The soul, having recognized its plight, demands permanent release from all limitation and sees the necessity of turning to the infinite. The fourth and final stage has been reached. As T.S. Eliot wrote, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." In its wanderings, the soul has learned what it does not want. It has experienced negative reality and now moves in the direction of the positive. But what is liberation? What does mankind truly want? It should be evident that the law of the universe has so far allowed us to have anything we want. We have been able to partake of the world on many different levels. Now we are finally faced with the ultimate question: what do we really want? Mystics suggest that what the soul truly desires is Sat Chit Anand, Sanskrit terms with which we shall now deal at length. Sat, or immortality. Everyone is frightened of death. We wonder what, if anything, lies beyond the door of death. What we really fear is non-existence. We are frightened that there will be some kind of void, and the mind cannot tolerate the thought that it will not exist. Our mind has no recollection of a state of non-being. It has knowledge only of this life on earth, and cannot imagine how it, the mind, can perish. It is this fear which torments mankind. If we truly knew that after death we existed in some higher and more blissful state, we would be unconcerned about death. It is our lack of faith and actual knowledge of the beyond which leads us to believe that there is nothing beyond the grave. In short, everyone wants to live and is fearful of death. True, a young person might say, I want to live only until age 75 or so. But when he reaches age 75, he will decide that 80 or 85 seems more reasonable. Ernie Pyle, the World War II correspondent, wrote an interesting story about some pilots who were about to fly a mission which was unlikely to leave any survivors. These were doomed men. Pyle said that as he observed these men, all of whom knew they would probably die that same day, he noted the major common characteristic they showed was fear of being deprived of the future. Pyle concluded that this was what men feared most. Man did not want to be left out, as it were, from future occurrences. Bacon wrote, "Men fear death as children fear to go in the dark." And David Gordon writes, "Our lives are poisoned by a fear of death, and much of our culture represents a response, however inadequate, to this fear. Most of us are afraid to contemplate our own ending. And when anything reminds us that we too shall die, we turn our thoughts and flee, and proceed through life as if we shall endure forever. It is as an event that is as remote as the end of time, and so we tend unconsciously to repress the fear and the fact of our ultimate doom, or consciously to forget it. But we are conscious of our finitude, are we not? Death, however, is something that happens to others, and it is virtually impossible for us to contemplate our own eventual demise. Insofar as we live with a fundamental belief which is untrue, is not much of our life converted into a lie? Man is so obsessed with Sat, with immortality, that he has built his culture around a response to this fear. Memorials to himself abound everywhere in a vain attempt to dampen his fear of oblivion. Gordon continues, "From the flimsiest wooden cross to the pyramids of the pharaohs of Egypt, man wishes to leave to people, as yet unborn, proof that he has lived." Chit, or awareness. It is a well-known fact that man is an inquisitive and conscious creature. What point would there be in mere existence if it were devoid of awareness? Would any of us choose to live 300 years in a coma without any awareness? There is no virtue in existence without awareness. Even the Supreme Lord himself manifests a characteristic of awareness. Swamiji Maharaj points this out in Sarbachan when he says, "I now describe what was in existence. I was intensely and consciously absorbed and concentrated within myself in the highest degree of love and bliss. The Supreme Being was, is, and will ever remain immersed in himself. When, however, it so pleased him, he assumed the most marvelous form and gave his darshan, revealed himself." Footnote: Swamiji Maharaj, 1818 to 1878, lived in Agra and was the guru of Baba Jaimal Singh, who settled in Beas, Punjab. End footnote. And Guru Nanak says, "One Supreme Being, the Eternal, the all-pervading Lord, the Creator, primordial truth through eons truth. Such is it now, and such forever shall it be. So along with desiring infinite existence, man wants awareness. He is eager to know everything. Science itself is based upon the premise of curiosity. Man simply wants to know. We are currently doubling the sum total of scientific knowledge every 4 or 5 years. Further, there are more scientists alive and working today than all the scientists of recorded history combined. Yet, with all this newfound knowledge, are we content? No. We continually keep finding new projects and seek to learn even more. Not content with the mysteries of this planet, we have recently begun interplanetary exploration. The possibilities are endless, and knowledge seems limitless. It should be clear that in this sphere, as with existence, man desires infinite knowledge or awareness. He wants to know everything there is to know. Only then will he be content. In the Upanishads it says, "We desire the knowledge, the knowing of which all else is known." This is the knowledge which we seek. We shall not rest until we have attained it. Phika, an 18th century saint from Uttar Pradesh, wrote, "None is poor, O Bhika. Everyone hath rubies in his bundle. But how to open the knot he doth not know, and thus remains a pauper." Anand, or bliss. What would be the purpose of knowing everything and existing eternally if that existence were unbearable or insufferable? We would hardly choose to live a life of pure misery and would gladly live less time if we could be guaranteed a blissful existence. It is clear that we all desire Anand, whether we call it love, bliss, peace, or happiness. Indeed, we devote a good deal of our efforts in this world to the quest for happiness. How then can we imagine that the Supreme Consciousness would be devoid of that bliss which we crave in our existence even on this lowly plane? It appears, therefore, that we desire 3 conditions as a part of the concept of true liberation. 1. Infinite existence. 2. Infinite knowledge or awareness. 3. Infinite bliss. By definition, there is only one entity, if we may call it that, which has these 3 qualities: God. Therefore, man truly desires God, for only by becoming one with Him can we obtain the 3 conditions we seek. Only the infinite can give of the infinite. To find that mukti or moksha, liberation, which we all ultimately seek, we must turn to the only truly free entity. Only He can bestow the gift of liberation from all bondage. Without Him, we become, as Shakespeare wrote, a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.